somewhere between these two maps, we enter the period of settlement that's called the Judges. And here we meet God's people struggling with their own sinfulness and the consequences of sin. If we had a chance, we could spend time with a map and we would see how the valley is surrounded by hills, and then a mountain range, and then the plains. And it was in the mountain ranges that the people of God primarily settled. It is in the valley and on the seacoast that we have the most lush, beautiful farmland. But the people of God were not used to farming. They'd been wandering for 40 years. And so they entered into this country, began to settle, and they discovered that the people there already had a way and a means to guarantee crops. Fertility religion, temple prostitution, the Ashtaroths. It was mostly a way of doing agriculture. And so the people of God became enamored with the productivity, and they turned away from God and turned to other gods, and God simply allowed them the consequences and stepped back. And the people around them would harass them and overcome them, and then they would cry out to God again, and God would raise up wonderful people like Ehud, Othniel. Perhaps you've heard of Deborah, a wonderful woman of God. You've probably heard of Gideon. God did not abandon God's people, even though they abandoned him, but raised up leaders. When the people of God would repent and turn back to God, God was there waiting for them, but God would not barge in to protect them from themselves and the bad decisions they made. And then eventually God will raise up a man whose mother was without children and who dedicated a son, a child, to be a Nazirite. His name is Samson. And Samson will be perhaps the most celebrated of all the judges, not only for his deeds but his misdeeds. And finally, Samson will have his head shorn. He will be taken captive, and he will bring down the temple to false gods around him and those who gathered to mock him and the God of Israel. It's a great chapter. God's faithfulness, man's unfaithfulness, and God's willingness to forgive. Happy reading.